The views and opinions expressed in these historical letters that may contain vernacular used in the World War II era, the post-war era, and the Cold War era do not reflect the views and opinions of any of the individuals involved with this project, including, but not limited to, the podcast's creators. Morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Allison.
How are you doing this morning?
I have visions of spring.
You look like you might.
I'm ready. I don't want to rush the winter. But there's snow and it's not going anywhere, Allison. It's just there.
It's not. We had a little dusting last night, and
Yeah.
it made it like there was glitter that just like dropped on top of the piles. I was at work this week, and the sun was out, and I was walking outside, and there was another employee, and I said, "It's 30 degrees outside. We're 2 degrees away from some of this melting." It just never got there, so all the snow has just been sitting on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm not trying to rush it, but I already did start seeds.
Yeah.
And I have my garden planning going on in my head,
Yeah.
So it's getting me through the winter. It's getting me through the
Yeah.
winter. But in the letters, we are in the tail end of the summer heat.
We are.
So I was like, I'm looking forward to reading about this kind of stuff today.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Though, Sweetie, she's had a bout with poison ivy, as we learned in the last episode. Speaking of the last episode, hey everybody, welcome to the second episode of season 3. If you missed last week, starting season 3, we learned that Sweetie and Lou and Lewis left County Line Road in Hatboro and moved to a big, big house. The photos are online of this in Doylestown on North Main Street. 13-room house, 3 stories, and they have a new resident. They're tenant.
A resident. Yeah,
Yeah,
something that
boarder.
came with the wonderful big giant house.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she's really special. She's really special. Her name is Marion Curtis Darst. She is 90. At the point where Sweetie, Lou, and Lewis go to live with her. It's part of the deal for them to get the house, is she is going to live there until she dies. They're going to take care of room and board. They make this arrangement with Miss Darst's nephew, who's in Atlanta, Georgia. Nice gentleman. His name is Brower Murphy. So Mr. Murphy, you're going to hear his name in the letters today. Brower Murphy down in Georgia, of course, trying to just look out for his aunt, making sure she's taken care of, trying to do the right thing in getting her situated, basically, for her last years. As we've learned in the first episode, if you missed it, you should go back and listen to the first episode of season 3. Miss Darst is not the nicest of people. Yeah. She's really not. But I'm gonna, I think from today's letter, we're gonna learn a bit more, and everybody can judge for themselves about her character. So,
hey, so let's do a little bit of housekeeping before we get started on the letters today. Hi, welcome to the Love Sweetie podcast. And I don't normally do this, so I'm just going to muddle through it. But I figured it had to be done. So if you could like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, that would be really awesome. And if you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thank you. Thank you for listening. Follow, download, send us an email. And also we do have a Facebook page. And don't forget to go to www.lovesweetiepodcast.com. That's where you will find all the pictures that you have here on the episodes. And you can also find information. Allison does a great little recap, which has been very helpful for me when I'm going through and I can remember certain things. And I was like, what's that episode? She does a recap of every single episode, gives you the letters that we're doing. So it's easy to find and kind of go through. And if you're not interested in watching every single episode, you can kind of get an idea of the story. So I did want to bring that up because I was on the website the other day and it's just so very nice, Allison. It's just such a nice little website. It's very easy to navigate. And the pictures and some of the things that we have here are so very important to the story. So definitely go and visit there.
But heading into the 2 letters we have for today's episode, we're in August 1951 for both of them. Here comes August 4th. 363 North Main Street, Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Saturday, August 4th, 1951. Dear Mama and Papa, I shall take time right now to drop you a brief note and send it airmail, hoping it will catch you before you leave the Grand Canyon address. I received your 2 cards last night after returning home from the city. I must have written a pretty black letter from your card. Things may seem pretty dismal one day, then the next always brings something different, if not somewhat improved. Since the episode I wrote you, she has been quite decent, almost subdued, and if she remains so, I shall not mention her leaving, as I don't see quite how we could manage if the board she pays us were to suddenly quit, and I keep telling myself that, and will make it work out for that reason. I notice, though, that Lewis is taking a sort of hands-off stand, and where he used to follow her around and chat, he is too busy doing other things, and is even rude at times, which may be due to my scolding her, and so I shall have to be more careful. Don't worry about it, we'll make out all right. I suspect the nephew feared something like this, though, for the last time he was here in June, he asked Lou if there had been any trouble, and to let him know if there was. Of course, Lou was too polite to tell him of the cussed little things she'd done, but I'd hate to tattle anyway, and have him scold her, for she does think he is next to God himself. I keep saying it won't kill me to put up with her, for I'd feel guilty to make her miserable for the short time she'll have to remain on this earth, if she doesn't push me too far. We'll make out all right, so I repeat, don't worry. I actually do want to pause here just to make sure our audience is very clear, since these are new characters, who's being talked about here. So the previous letter is the one from the season 3 premiere episode 93, for the dismal nature of what was said. The she being referred to is Miss Darst herself, and the nephew is that nephew that we were just talking about in Atlanta, Georgia, Brower Murphy. So if just to make sure everybody's following along right at the beginning of this episode, due to the new nature of these individuals in the storyline, they are absolutely who are being talked about here. When things get a little too thick, I just walk out for a while, either to go and do some shopping for essentials, or just go outside and pull a few maple shoots that are about to take over the yard, and manage to keep away from the poison ivy, which, by the way, is gone, and I must say I feel as though I'd been redeemed from the plague. My hands are fine, which caused me untold agony, but there is still a little around my ankles and feet not giving me any trouble by comparison, except when I take off my shoes and socks at night. I did not think of the Benadryl. It wasn't mentioned in the Merck manual, but bathed in calamine lotion. By the way, Lou got me some of the base that had some benzocaine in it, and the anesthetic quality just saved my life, believe me, and when that ran out, I found a tube of calogesic ointment that came in your samples. It is calamine and benzocaine. And that was fine, too. Remember that when Mama gets into the ticks or chiggers, it really stops the itching. I had to take Itch to the dentist to have an aching tooth filled, and fearing he might yowl, promised him that if he didn't, I'd take him someplace he'd never been before, and surprise him with lots of things. He was entranced by the thought, and since Lou was still in Atlantic City, and I had the car, I took him down to the city to visit Franklin Institute. I thought I had conquered a great deal of fear in driving all the way down, for the first time into the city, and we, both of us, enjoyed it tremendously. Of course, there were a great many things that were beyond his comprehension, but he enjoyed them anyway. Everything is fixed up for the viewer to operate from the pilot's house of a yacht to a train engine that moves just a short distance, and back again. There was an excellent exhibit by Bell Telephone that explained all the workings of the phone, dial, and long-distance calls, and he talked into a phone and then heard his own voice come back to him. The Fells Planetarium had an interesting if awesome program on how the world would come to an end, and he was frightened, but interested, and is still talking about it. Asked if we couldn't go again sometime, and we shall. Lou did manage to come up on Wednesday night for an overnight stay. We got up at 5 a.m. to get him down to the place he had to catch a ride. I guess he thought I'd either have fed Mumbles arsenic or mortally wounded her by now. Elizabeth and G-Mom got back from their 2 weeks at the shore nice and brown, but just as tired as when they left, especially G-Mom, who did most of the diaper washing by hand as it had to be done. Elizabeth has 2 months before the new baby is due, and is right now busy shopping for a house. She's found one for $16,000, and if I know Elizabeth, she'll get just what she wants.
Well, of course, she's did.
She's
She
did.
always gets what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple of things. First, this was a little eerie, a little uncanny to me. The way that she is writing, and she says, let me see if I just want to be completely okay. Since the episode I wrote you,
Mm-hmm.
I know, and she's never said anything like, but that's what we call these are episodes.
Ooh, yeah.
Do you
Mm-hmm.
see that? I'm just like, ooh, that's a
Yep.
little, ooh, that kind of gave me a little shiver. Here's the other thing. This is the
Yep.
other thing. Lewis grows up to be in the Navy
Mm-hmm.
and grows up to work on the presidential yacht.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say you operate from a pilot's house of a yacht, I'm like,
oh, I love that part. Yeah, that's such a huge story. I'm okay with spoiling that because my dad actually, he goes and gives presentations at schools about his service in the Navy, and he talks about his days on the yacht. So it is a good time to bring this up because we're not going to get to that content for many, many, many years. Maybe we'll record some early content about it just because I know our listeners today would like to hear about it, especially if he gives presentations to schools about this time. He was on the presidential yacht for 4 years, and the president, and that's the USS Sequoia because it's not in presidential service anymore. I don't know if Donald is aware of the presidential yacht or if he would try to buy it back if he knew. But it was created for Roosevelt, and when my dad serves on it, he serves on it under President Nixon from 68 to 72. And Nixon also had 2 other yachts, one which was known as the Patricia, and then the Sequoia is the main one that's in DC, and then Nixon had a 3rd yacht that he called Julie because you want to name your boats after your daughters. But at any rate, yeah, this part about the pilot house and the yacht, I saw the same thing when I was reading it. I was like, he
right?
stood in that pilot house on that yacht.
I thought that was really cool. Like that kind of came in because of what I know and stuff. And just like her writing episode just kind of made me laugh. And then when she said that about him doing that, Lewis going and pretending to be on a yacht, I was like, oh,
how great is that?
Foreshadowing. Also, let's talk about, this is really fun. You know, this makes me a little sad. My high school had a planetarium, like an actual planetarium in the high school. And like as an elementary student, we'd go visit. And then when I got to high school, it was no longer operational. Isn't that sad?
That's sad. Like, planetariums are cool.
They use it for storage and art and stuff, which is fine. It is a beautiful room right in the high school. So I think they do have a planetarium at Carnegie Science Museum in Pittsburgh. They do have some planetariums that I would like to take my own children to. But that's so cool that I bet he had just such a wonderful time.
Oh, yeah. And for our audience, you know, the Franklin Institute is still a major, major sightseeing spot if you're ever around Philadelphia. And if you want to just get an idea of what it's like and you're not traveling to Philadelphia, I remember I was watching an episode of Abbott Elementary, that show that's on ABC. I think there's an episode because that show's set in Philadelphia, the kids go to the Franklin Institute. So you can find that episode. You can kind of get an idea of what it's like. It's just as popular as ever over there. So really, really a major spot. Named for Ben Franklin.
But also I forgot to mention too, that there was an exhibit by Bell Telephone, which his uncle Frank works for.
Yep.
See, we've got one letter and we've already got all these like cool little things.
Little tidbits, yeah.
Wasn't it Elizabeth negotiated with her in-laws that she was to spend time at the beach? Only 2 weeks this time, not a month.
Yeah. She didn't go for as long. Though she's pretty pregnant at this point, so I'm guessing that's probably why she didn't spend as much time. They usually go around Labor Day, so this tracks with her yearly visit to Atlantic City. There's a couple other things. We have the medical part, and here's insert disclaimer here. Special disclaimer. The medicines and other medical treatments noted in these historical letters from the 1950s are specific to Sweetie's story and might not be recommended today, or are even more regulated than they were so many years ago. As such, none of the medical information contained within these letters is to be construed as medical advice. Talk to your doctor. Thank you for your attention to this message. Now, back to the show. I'm not familiar with benzocaine, and it sounds like something else. So I'm guessing maybe that's not a thing anymore. Maybe it is a thing, but talk to your doctor. And then the one thing at the very beginning of the letter, we're reminded that this whole time that this letter is being written, she thinks that her dad and her mom are at the Grand Canyon.
Right.
Which, of course, that was covered at the season finale of season 2, episode 92. So if you missed that content, you can go back and you'll see why and where Chester and Laura were. It was a little bit of a time warp. So at the time she's writing this, she thinks she's going to catch them. We know at this point they have left the Grand Canyon. They left on the 2nd because I think Laura had enough with the puttering. So this letter somehow gets back to them, but it has to travel around a bit. So.
Yeah, again, like that whole having to coordinate all that stuff in this time period, where you don't have phones or internet or anything like that. Yep. Cell phones. But yeah.
I've been enjoying having the car while Lou is gone. Have taken off and fixed the seat covers. Did a mighty fine job on them too. And because we don't have an outside faucet, and it is so far to carry water, I took it up to a nearby filling station to have it washed. I didn't discover until after supper at night what a truly lousy job they had done on it. Decided I'd carry some water and do a few spots, and as I started, I was getting madder and madder until I just drove it back up and told them that when I paid money for something, I expected a halfway decent job to be done on it, and they could just do it over. And they did. Came back looking right nice, too. Joe has gone to Maine, or rather to Boston, to do some summer stock work. Is right now appearing in a play with Kay Francis. I can't tell you much about it, but hope the pay is good. Marguerite took 3 weeks to go down to Texas by plane to visit her mother, who has resigned herself to the almost total loss of the use of her right arm. I am sorry for them both. I pity anyone who must suffer with cancer, but I also pity Marguerite, for it is hard to be so far away from home and worry helplessly about your mother and father, and want desperately to be in both places at once. Jean has been plying me with postal cards as Bob used to do, but I must say, she is being even more like Bob, when once she does get a letter from me, to refrain from acknowledging it or answering it. I sent her a carbon copy of the letter I mailed to you at Grand Canyon, have received a card from you saying you got it, but haven't had one of those cards from Jean. Ironical, ain't it? We spent almost 4 hours in the Franklin Institute yesterday, almost constantly on the move, must have walked miles, and once we started home, Louis just laid his head down and fell sound asleep. I hope you will try to come here in September and visit it too. You would probably get more good out of it than anyone else, for you have more knowledge of such things, and they would mean more to you. I can sympathize with Mama knowing the anxiety for your well-being, and hope you'll not chide her very much. I wish I could have gone with you to help her worry. Between us, we could have given you a merry run for your money. You'll enjoy the trip through the mountains if you come here, and I hope you decide to come. Enjoyed Mama's letter immensely, especially about both you and Jean blubbering over the telephone, and your comments on Glenn. Bet 2 bits I get a letter now just to ask what Mama said about Glenn. I'll keep her on the frying pan, too. Must stop now. We'll airmail this to Grand Canyon and hope to reach you before you leave. We'll be most anxious to hear of the pilgrimage, and all details. Do be very careful, especially in the higher altitudes. Couldn't help but worry when you said it made you weak. Do be careful and get home safely, so you can come here in September. Love to all of you. Right. Love I think she forgot to sign it. So
Oh,
I think she did.
that's funny.
Mhm.
It's, she signs it. The name of the podcast is Love Sweetie.
Mhm.
And she signs it Love Sweetie, but she does all these interesting variations on it.
Mhm.
And here's one where she just forgot her name.
Yeah,
It's
that's
okay.
why when I narrated, I was just like, like
Well, I like how you stay true to the letters.
Mhm.
And it always gives me a different perspective. I read them in my head,
Mhm.
but it always gives me a different perspective to hear you read it out loud.
It's
So,
different when I'm in the course of narrating it, actually, while I'm doing the recordings for it,
mhm.
because I read things one way, like, and when I first transcribed these letters, it was over a year ago, and then I go back to them, I'm like, oh, I didn't really read that when I was just typing it up a while ago. So it happens,
Yeah.
yeah, all the time. Yeah, there's always some other nugget to uncover in her writing. So
Hmm. And yeah, so this is something actually too that I'd like to just talk about a little bit is the whole process.
sure.
Because I don't think people know what you're going through with this.
Mhm.
So it was so funny because we were at a meeting together and it was kind of boring. And I look over and Allison is transcribing letters.
Mhm.
Like she's like,
Yep.
I'm bored, da, 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 da," and she was just transcribing
Yep.
letters. So this is what has to do. She has all of her letters
Mhm.
and she has gone through them all, or most of them. So you haven't read all of the letters, correct?
No. Oh yeah, no. There's way too
Okay.
many letters to have gone through.
So
So
have you read letters and you are in a place? Like, are you in a decade right now?
I'm still in the 50s right now.
You're still in the
I'm
50s.
still in the 50s right now. Yeah, the letter collection is immense. So a lot of people have asked me if I scan in the letters and then
Mhm.
read them through. I like to really take in the story at a slower pace. And so I force myself to transcribe it because it slows myself down, especially when dealing with like Chester's letters, for example. His handwriting, really, really difficult. So it's forcing me to really look and be like, no, what is that word that he's trying to do? Right
Mhm.
there. And even and Jamie knows this from looking at the book versus what was on the screen for the finale of season 2. There were still a couple like dots where we simply could not figure out what the word was, but my dad could read it. Like the one was the word aluminum in one of them, if you go back into that. And I put the postal card on the screen so you could see his handwriting, and I'm like,
Mhm.
that makes sense. Like finally you just need another person to kind of look at it. But with Sweetie's letters, I feel like I earn the right to narrate the letter if I've really thoroughly gone through it. And the only way to really do that, and also to take notes as I go and to annotate with footnotes as I come across things, is to retype them up. Now, I do have the benefit of typing over 100 words a minute. So I'm moving along pretty well. But an evening for me would be like I'll listen to something on like a YouTube, like a podcast, and then I actually I'll show you guys, I'm in 1954 right now. I'm not much further ahead because 53 is really big. I just finished 53 and I was so happy. I have a whole process that I do. I buy a very special binder when I'm done with a volume and I get it embossed. So sitting on my shelf, I haven't even opened this one yet. It says Catherine Frances Demery letters. So if you were to go into an archives, you would see this. And on the shelf, it says 53. I'm about to put that on the shelf. It's like that achievement moment. It's like I've earned that from going through all our 53 content. I'm in early 54 right now. I'll show you. You've probably seen it behind me. And this is January 1954. This is the coverage of Christmas of 1953 that she wrote. This is Sweetie's device that she used as a secretary. And it
Mhm.
props it up and it just sits next to my computer and I just glance over and I just transcribe until I need more coffee. And a good night I can probably transcribe about 5 to 7 of those pages straight through. It's very much like 10 font single spaced old typewriter going through. But
Well, it's
yeah.
always nice. Like, I don't think people know like how the sausage is made here. So
Mm-hmm.
it's nice to see. And Chester's postcards that you put on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you are an audio listener, oh man, go back to even just to see what she had to deal with Chester, like
Mm-hmm.
what you have to read and everything, and like how, but it was so neat it's so neat to see the actual original letters. I don't have them, obviously. I have all of your transcriptions, so which is nice because then I can read them.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
can't. I tried to read Chester's writing.
Mhm.
I don't know how you do it. So, but I like it when people can see like what exactly we have to do in order to get this episode out. And I think too that people are going to be coming across, like you have said, they're going to be coming across old family things. Save your old family things.
Yeah.
Save them. And
Mhm.
you'll see how very, very important it was that Sweetie and Jean, Jean, let's just say it was Jean. Jean saved
Yeah.
everything.
Jean saved everything.
How
Yeah.
very important was that Jean saved all of this.
Be Jean.
Be Jean.
Be Jean.
But I wanted to like show and also
Yeah,
give a little bit of credit because Allison puts a ton of work into these. So thank you. Thank you, Allison.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So.
But that was our very first letter.
Mm-hmm.
You can see how she feels about Miss Darst.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're
And
gonna.
apparently Chester was a little bit worried about her. So it was nice for her to kind of, calm that fear.
We can confirm Chester and Laura are home by the time this next letter comes up here on the 22nd. 363 North Main Street, Doylestown, Pennsylvania, August 22nd, 1951. Dear Mama, Papa, and all the clan, this is the first round-robin letter I've undertaken since we moved to Doylestown, and I'm not banking that this will be such a hot letter either. I haven't heard from Franks nor Florence since we moved here, and it's only occurred to me that I hadn't written them, and possibly they didn't even have the address. It is given correctly above, and I shall be very glad if you both use it. I've hardly had time to answer the letters I have received. I don't promise that this one will be very long, nor informative, but at least it will wish Frank a happy birthday, and let everyone else know we're still alive. I'm glad to know the folks got home all right. I thought about you so often and followed your trip via postal cards, but wished I could be with you or just know that you were all right. I have enjoyed hearing as much as you've written, but hope to hear much more as the letters come. Got notice that there is a postal card in Farmington, New Mexico with a penny cent. Ain't that something? A penny cent stamp due on it before they'll send it on to me. I'm going to send for it, even at this late date, just to get it here. I wrote a second letter to you at Grand Canyon that I doubt if you received. I asked that it be returned to me, and am looking for it almost daily now. Shall send it to you just for fun, though the news will be outdated. Right while it is on my mind, Jean, would you please change our address on those first-day covers? They are coming to the Hatboro address, and the dumb postman is scratching out the Hatboro address and scribbling the Doylestown address on them, and are about to ruin the whole batch. Since our other expenses have been so terribly heavy lately, we have had to discontinue buying stamps, and these first-day covers are all we have to keep our stamp collection going. But first-day covers are virtually ruined to be forwarded, especially by anyone as plain dumb as that mailman is. We'd appreciate it if you'd do that immediately. I have a great many family letters safely tucked aside to answer when I can take the time to go through them and answer questions and comment on remarks, but I just don't dare start that now. I haven't the time to do them justice, but there is one thing I'd like to mention to Mama. You wrote in one of your letters about the time we moved that you'd come across a book, and in it a newspaper telling of the death of George Washington. I wonder if you meant an actual newspaper, or a cut in the book? Write me more about this, will you? I'm over the poison ivy all right, but I'm steering clear of the localities where I picked it up. However, I'm amazed at all there is around here, and noticed yesterday there is a healthy vine flourishing around the trunk of one of the big trees, right close to the sidewalk. We'll have to get some heavy gloves on and get out and try to dig it up, I guess. There is sure a batch of it in the backyard that needs tending, too. But having been so covered with it, I'm loath to expose myself to it again. Lou returned from his 2 weeks at Atlantic City looking nice and brown and well fed. He told me some of the meals they had served them down there, and I really drooled. They had several accidents and had to work long, long hours to keep the planes flyable. They're on another one now, down in Miami, Florida. He was supposed to go on that one too, but managed to get out of it, thank goodness. The 2 weeks he was gone seemed awfully long, with no one to let off steam to, though he did get home overnight on 2 occasions, and spent 1 day at home when Lewis was sick. He didn't seem to mind it much, though he didn't get to the beach to swim once. Yeah, I wanted to add here for our newer listeners, if you're wondering why Lou's going on cruises, these are not vacations. And we haven't mentioned it, but it's important to say, especially for people who are locals to this area, Lou is working at Naval Air Station, or NAS, Willow Grove. So he and the other Navy seamen are sent out on these cruises to do some routine actions and tasks. And I'm sure the guys who have been in the military who are listening to this understand completely. One happened to be in Atlantic City, and then there's a Miami one. So they go to these various areas on the shore, and they do these things. But of course, Sweetie's totally jealous of his ability to get away while at work and get to some of these locations and have some good food, it would seem.
Yes, it was, this kind of reminded me of when he was in the Merchant Marines and he was sending all those letters. And we did actually get to see there was an old menu.
Yeah.
So they feed them well. They feed them well. So they've had to stop buying their stamps. And that's another thing for newer listeners. They are stamp collectors. Like, this is something that they very much enjoy. They've been doing this since Atumwa.
Yep.
So this was kind of sad. I think the First Day covers is some kind of publication that Jean had bought for them.
I think First Day covers are kind of like, it's the envelope with the new stamp on it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it is. Basically, the Hatboro postman is messing this up. They're sent in a certain way to be collectible as the first mailing. And that Hatboro postman is not getting it and is writing on it, destroying the value of the envelope. Yeah,
she hated that guy.
He still
was an
does.
Idiot.
Yeah,
she still does. He's still messing with her, and she doesn't even live there anymore.
There it is.
This postman, I'll tell you what. So that was like, okay, now I understand that. I had a little question about that.
Yeah.
But so that's the only stamps that they can get. But they have this whole big house now that they have to like maintain because this is their house. This is their house. 13 room. Oh man.
We haven't done much work on the house lately. We ran out of money and couldn't afford more lumber to replace the joists. We got the ones in that were dangerous and are sort of resting on our laurels, but hope to get back to it right soon. We have done a good deal of work outside, cleaning up the lawn and mowing, etc., and it looks much nicer than it did. Does me much good to have the neighbors tell me so, after Miss Darst's nasty remark about the yard. I have a wonderful place for the iris you offered, if you do not think it is too late to send it to be planted. Miss Darst got more than a little miffed with me for pulling up some of her goldenrod. To tell the honest truth, I didn't know I was pulling goldenrod and was surprised to have her jump me for it, but got myself out of a squeak by saying that was the ideal place for the iris my dad was going to send me. She doesn't like to have me plant flowers, saying it is too much of a job to take care of them. She encourages wildflowers to grow wild, just so there isn't so much lawn to mow. The trouble with that is when the weeds take the wildflowers, it looks worse than if it were bare. And as a result, I got poison ivy. We seem to have our good days and our bad ones. If her bad day comes when I'm having a good one, I just don't pay attention. But if her bad day coincides with one of mine, I just hand back whatever she gives and enjoy her surprise. I try to be good to her, and most of the time we get along okay. I keep telling myself it is hard to have somebody much younger come into the house that has been hers for the last 50 years and just take over, and so I try to abide by her wishes and rules, but sometimes it is very difficult, and I wish I could just cut loose with how I actually feel. There are a great many things she does that I believe are just petty and selfish little whims, and those I try to ignore. But how often do I find myself sympathizing with poor old Uncle Ned, and often I wonder why he wasn't more of a drunk than he was. She must have enjoyed holding the whip hand over him, having him dependent upon her for every cent he spent, almost. I can see it in her attitude towards us. I'm convinced that she has a plain cussed streak, though I try to say she is just getting old, and doesn't remember or realize what she does. For instance, many years ago, when Aunt Addie, the maiden aunt she came here to take care of, was living, a cousin came and admired a pair of matched Sheraton console tables. Aunt Addie, in a burst of generosity, promised to give it to her when she died. Fate decided that the cousin should die first, and so Miss Darst felt that the table should go to the sister of the cousin who admired it. Somehow Uncle Ned prevailed upon her to sell one of the two to an antique dealer for $50, and she gave the other one to the cousin. The pair, in as good a condition as they were in, were worth a good $500 any day. The dealer must have told and retold the story of talking the stupid little pair out of one of them. The cousin still has the other one, and it alone is worth about $200. Well, this nephew who had helped us buy the house, and who has cared for her, wanted that table very badly, felt that he should have had the first chance at it before the cousin, but Miss Darst felt that because Aunt Addie had promised it to one of the girls, the other one had first crack at it. The nephew and his wife, on their last visit, went through the house and picked out all the things they wanted when Miss Darst was through with them. She suggested that they take the things right then, but they felt that she should keep the furniture and make it seem like home as long as she lived. We had already agreed not to dispose of any furniture for the same reason. However, Mrs. Murphy, the nephew's wife, did specifically ask for one small rose-carved rosewood chair for their little girl. Miss Darst did promise it to her, but added that she wanted to keep it, that it would go to Mrs. Murphy, but not in Miss Darst's lifetime. Mrs. Murphy agreed not to take it, but kept repeating that that chair was the one piece in the whole house that she really did want. I carefully made a list of the things as they pointed them out, and after they left, took it to Miss Darst and showed it to her. She looked it all over carefully, and said she would have everything that she had listed. Well, this cousin, who now has the little Sheraton table, came to visit one day last week, and didn't Miss Darst give her that little chair that Mrs. Murphy wanted? I saw the man pick up the chair and start out with it, hastily called Miss Darst out to the kitchen on the pretense of asking if she wanted me to serve tea, and quietly told her that Mrs. Murphy wanted that chair above all else in the house, and I wondered if she had forgotten it. She drew herself up in all the haughty snobbishness she's ever displayed and said, "No, I didn't forget, but I think Ella Wyckoff, the cousin, is next in line for it, and Mrs. Murphy will just have to do without." That she felt she should have the say-so over some of the stuff yet, for a while, and so Ella Wyckoff was taking the chair. She might just as well have come right out and told me to mind my own business. I felt like asking if she wasn't biting the hand that fed her, but was so surprised to hear her denounce Mrs. Murphy that I was speechless. The very next day, Mr. Murphy flew up from Georgia to get his little boy and take him home for a month's vacation, and murder was out. He was just as flabbergasted as I was, and after the initial shock wore off, he was just plain mad. She has told him he could have the grandfather's clock that is worth about $250, and he was so mad he told her to ship Ella Wyckoff the clock or anything else in the house, but to get that chair back, and she said she wouldn't do it. I told him when I got him outdoor that there had been some schoolteachers call for antiques, and in asking for a round, marble-topped table, she showed them one that he wanted, and said that if the woman had wanted it with a cracked top, that she would have sold it out from under him, and made it up some other way. He jumped me for not stopping the chair's exit, and then realized that I couldn't without starting open warfare. It seems sort of like tattling on her, but after he called us long distance from Georgia, and told us not to dispose of any furniture when we were moving in because he wanted some of these things, I tried to stop her giving the chair away and couldn't. And I just told him I couldn't be responsible for the furniture if she'd pull a trick on him like that when she professes to love them so much. He told her he thought it was wrong for her to do that when they had paid her for every stick of furniture they had taken, that Ella didn't have any right to it, that she had promised it to Evelyn, and that the chair was the one thing in the house that Evelyn really cared for. She was really shook up, as they say, in the Navy, and there was hell to pay for every telephone book out of place for the next 2 or 3 days, until she sort of got settled down. I thought to myself, bet she'll watch her step from now on. But on Sunday I took her to church, and somebody nearly always offers to drive her home. Well, this Sunday a different lady brought her home. I don't remember her name, but on the way she asked Miss Darst if she had a small whatnot that Uncle Ned bought at a sale of her aunt's furniture. Miss Darst couldn't recall any whatnot of any description, but thought the washstand she was using in her room had come from that sale and had belonged to her aunt, but she wasn't sure. The lady identified it from her description, and Miss Darst said that if it was, she could have it. You guessed it, the washstand is another item that Mrs. Murphy wants. I told her so, and can you believe Miss Darst said, "Well, she'll just have to want, 'cause she isn't going to get it. I promised it to Mrs. So-and-so, and she's going to have it." I'm thinking of dropping a line to Mr. Murphy before it leaves the house, as the chair did. But if I do, and Mr. Murphy writes to her that she mustn't let her have it, Miss Darst will know that I've written and tattled, and yet Mr. Murphy was good to us in selling the house cheap, and I feel obligated to look out for those things that he asked me to look out for. It makes her awful mad if I say anything to her about the things, but of all the things Murphys have done for her, it sure seems mean for her to do these mean things now.
What a
Villain.
horrible, horrible woman.
Yep.
She's so awful. And okay, see, what really confuses me the most is that well, actually, you know what? I just think she's vindictive. I think if you wrong or slight her in any way, that she will make you pay for it. And I think that when Miss Darst told Brower Murphy and his wife, and I just love that name, Brower Murphy and Evelyn Murphy, when she said you should just take the furniture now, they should have just took it.
That was it. That was their shot to get it. And now she's like, nope, now.
And she said, when Miss Darst tells you to do something, and I have a feeling that she has kind of like a process. And her process is, I'm going to yell at you and tell you to do the thing. And then if you give it back to her, then she like softens up, but she waits for the opportunity to make you pay for it. And I think that by the Mr. Murphy not taking the furniture when they did, she was like, oh, okay, well, now you're going to pay for it. She has a very messed up sense of justice.
She does. And, this whole section, we get a little more of a reveal here about how it was a really good deal. There's a really great relationship being established between Brower Murphy, Mr. Murphy in Atlanta, and Sweetie and Lou. And Lewis, too. Like, Lewis is a fan. To this day, my dad remembers very fondly Mr. Murphy as being just, like, the coolest guy. So he's a huge fan of Mr. Murphy and, having known him at this time. Because at this point, he's remembering, of course, a lot more. He was in 51. He's about to be 6 years old. So, like, his memories of Brower Murphy are pretty solid.
Right.
He also remembers Miss Darst really well as well. But, yeah. But with this whole situation, it's a perfect portrait of just like, if you thought listening to the first episode of season 3, it's like maybe she's just, very tired from moving. Then you get into this letter, and it just keeps going. And that's why I said at the end of season 2, villain alert. Petty, mean, and cruel. We also get the mention of some of Miss Darst's family. We are going to get a lot more information on as we go through season 3 about the background for Miss Darst. We hear about cousin Ella. We are going to get to meet cousin Ella at a later point in season 3. She's going to appear. And we get the last name of Wyckoff is brought up. So just everybody mentally clock that name appearing. This is a New York, a Brooklyn line. So if you are from New York City and you know the name Wyckoff and you're like, wait a minute, is that? I'm just going to leave that out there. But cousin Ella running off with some of the furniture. We hear these other names. It's the spitefulness. It's the absolute spitefulness.
It is the spitefulness. And she's definitely I think she just really does things to upset people because she knows that you can't do anything. And that's really sad. It's like, it's honestly very confusing to me. Who's somebody who's nice. And Sweetie says, she's like, I was going to ask her if you're biting the hand that feeds you.
Yeah.
But I think that this is how Miss Darst has operated her entire life. And she is just unwilling to accept the fact that she's 90 years old. Yeah. And like Sweetie is like there to take care of her. Well, it really doesn't matter because she's just not going to change. But I think one of the most telling lines, especially given Sweetie is against drinking. Like Sweetie is not a drinker. She is, she does not. Lou doesn't drink. She doesn't drink. She's like, What is the line she says? I wonder why he wasn't more of a drunk than he was.
Yeah.
Speaking of Uncle Ned,
Mm-hmm.
he had to dull it. He had to
Yep.
dull it. She sounds like she's just one of the most miserable, awful people. And sweet, and still, given that, of course, they've only been there for a little while, Sweetie's still trying to give her the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Yep.
Wow. Wow. I hope maybe at one point in time Mrs. Darst redeems herself, but I feel like that's not going to happen.
I have yet to find it. I could just put it that way. We were talking earlier how I'm in 1954. I have yet to find it. Just little moments here and there. So, we're in for it for a while. And if you're wondering, wait, is she still alive in 54? No comment. But this is actually, and this is an interesting letter to just talk about because Jamie can see this in the transcription, but because of the way the slides appear on YouTube, this isn't quite apparent. This is a massive, massive paragraph where the video just ended for that little portion. It's continuing. So when we go into the next video, just know it's part of the same paragraph because this is not the end of this whole portion of this particular story. Mr. Murphy seems to think her mind is failing her. But I don't think so. She just isn't going to be told what to do, and I'm convinced it is just a cussed streak that she displayed to Uncle Ned quite often. Mr. Murphy told Lou on his way out to the car, he was only here for a couple of hours, that he was getting pretty sick of the whole arrangement. And to me he said, well, now you see why we couldn't take her down with us. This butt-headedness around the kids just wouldn't do. And I said, what about my kid, Mr. Murphy? While he was here, I gave him a check for the monthly payment on the house and went over the settlement papers with him and the deed and title insurance papers and the taxes, etc. And he asked me how we were making out and did we need more money. I said we always need more money, and he asked Miss Darst if she didn't think they should pay us an extra $10 per month on her board. I had just walked out of the room and into the kitchen where she couldn't see or hear me, but I could hear them. Mr. Murphy explained that the monthly payments were higher than we had anticipated, and that since the cost of living was due to increase next month, that he wondered if they shouldn't pay us more. She asked him if I'd asked for more money, and when he said no, it was his suggestion, she said, no, don't pay them any more. I'm not demanding anything, but she forgot that the day before, when dear cousin Ella came, that she asked me to serve tea, which I did, tea, canapes, and ice cream and cookies, without her paying me, and everywhere we go, if it isn't to a sale, she goes along, asks if we don't invite her, and she expects to be taxied to church just as regularly as Sunday comes, and whenever I go to town, she has errands to be run all over town. When Lou has the duty and I have the car, she expects it to be at her beck and call to visit wherever she chooses. Well, when I told Lou the conversation I'd overheard, he said, well, from now on she's a boarder, and we shall treat her more as such than as a member of the family. The ironical part of it is that the agreement we signed, drawn up by her lawyer, said $25 weekly, and she is paying $100 monthly on the excuse that she doesn't have to write but one check that way. I tried tactfully to suggest that she pay us on each Monday a $25 check, but she has consistently refused to do so. Actually, she isn't paying us what she agreed to, and refused to allow us $10 a month more. That would bring it up to what she is legally bound to pay, and while I haven't argued it out with her, I got it over to Mr. Murphy that I'd heard the conversation, and she never had paid us what she should, but that we'd gone along with $100 per month rather than start unpleasantness. He agreed to mail us a check each month to make up the difference, but not to tell her. We're getting the money, which would probably rankle her if she knew, but she is self-satisfied that she's keeping us from getting more money, and that rankles me. Ah, yes, I knew all of this when I moved in, and when I get to dragging my chin, I shake me good and say, you made your bed, so squirm in it. But in the end, we shall have what we really want, and so I shall squirm for a while, and then glory in what I've helped to attain. It's like I say, I have good days and bad days, so I just try not to dwell too long on any one thing, and say like Scarlett O'Hara, I'll worry about that tomorrow.
Poor sweetie. And it's very clear to me that Miss Darst will insist upon things so that she is in control. She insists upon doing $100 monthly check, and she knows that she's not supposed to do that, but she's like, if I can get under your skin just that little bit, I can keep peeling, which is what
Right.
she's doing. And I think that is probably her MO. And it's clear people know who she is. So, but her saying, no, I'm just going to pay you $100 a month with one check is she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, she knows. Of course, Sweetie's favorite story, her favorite films until she died, was Gone with the Wind. And I do love that, like, Scarlett O'Hara resolve. I'm just going to grit my teeth and I'm going to get what I want, and I'm just going to be perseverant. Like, of course, Scarlett, probably not the best character of all time, but with the way things work out in that particular tale, but the perseverance is there. Tomorrow's another day, right? That's the famous line. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. I think she's kind of saying that to Darst. Like, whatever. Like, I'm just going to put up with you. She talks about all these additional things she's doing for Miss Darst, and finally Lou puts a stop to it. That doesn't mean she's going to stop entirely, but it's things like going to the church. Miss Darst, to my recollection, she does not go to the Presbyterian church the way Sweetie and Sweetie and Louis do in the mornings. So she's taking her to a different church. That's why Darst is coming back with somebody else from the church, which was referenced earlier. But acting as that taxi, as she says, running errands and doing all these other things. It's like, nope. And then, of course, Mr. Murphy over here being like, you know what, I'll just send you the extra $10 she owes. No one's going to tell her about it, but we're good. You're not going through that, and then just putting up with that nonsense. So he's just smoothing things out in the background. He really was a great guy. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, clearly you can't reason with this woman,
No.
and she needs to feel like she's in control. And so it's like, that's how you have to act around her, which is so sad. You can't, you have to be on your toes, and you have to always think, which is very sad to live with. Like, you have to always think, what is her motivation? What is she doing? And Sweetie is just getting a test of her undermining people. And it seems like she likes to do this. She really likes to kind of be like, nope, you know what? And the whole thing with, well, the cousin wanted that table, so I'm going to give it to her, but she died, so I'm going to give it to her sister gets next. That is the stupidest, most arbitrary rule I've ever heard in my entire life. And that just seems like Mrs. Darst is just arbitrary. She just doesn't, she has no rhyme or reason other than to amuse herself.
Yeah. And then the other thing here is, and I can bring this up because I know some information that informs this being an accurate statement. Right at the beginning of this section, Mr. Murphy gives Miss Darst an out and says maybe her mind's starting to fail her. And Sweetie's like, I don't think so. I think she is just spiteful. Due to information that I can confirm, in the future content of the letters, it is extremely clear from this letter in 1951. Absolutely, Sweetie is correct. Miss Darst's mind is not failing her at this point. So she is going to get older, and there's things that come along, like she's already in her 90s. But if anybody is trying to have a shred of sympathy out there right now compared to some of the future content that's going to come up, her mind is not failing her right now. So Mr. Murphy is trying to be nice. I would not sympathize with her with that. Sweetie's 100% on point here. She's being petty and spiteful and cruel, and that's it. There's no excuses because we have enough evidence in future content to suggest that there is no problem with her mental faculties in 1951. One more part to the letter. She's finished her rant.
Yes. Okay, so she's done with that part.
Yeah, with that part.
But she still has a little bit more letter to go.
One thing I worry about. Louis starts to school on the 4th of September. Rather, we go to register on the 4th, and classes start full day on September 5th. I hate to think of it and often sympathize with myself. Mama hasn't any baby anymore. I haven't had for some time now, but going to school seems such a major step, and I shall truly be without a baby then. Thanks to the kind and generous relatives, he is fairly well provided with clothes for the immediate days, but I shall have to do some fast figuring for winter clothes. I have found a place where I can go and get long-sleeves jersey shirts 2 for $1. They are seconds, and may need some minor repairs done, like catching some threads at the seams where the machine stitching missed, or maybe where the machine needle made a small hole. It is nearly always something right near the seam where some matching color thread will make it good as new, but they are classed as seconds and therefore much cheaper. Likewise on underwear, but outer clothes like corduroys or jackets aren't so easily come by. And shoes. That boy. Clothes are actually a minor item, though, for there are many other things to consider. And I hope I don't suffer too greatly for the scourge of mama-itis. Here's the news of the Grahams. Joe is still in Boston doing summer stock. Should be home about Labor Day, I believe. Marguerite went to Texas for a 3-week visit with her mother. I understand she has lost the use of her right arm, for the most part, continues to make regular trips to Houston to the cancer clinic, but what their opinions are I shall have to wait until she gets home to find out. She should be home very soon, I believe. She's still working to take those enormous plantar warts off her feet. Deep X-ray didn't seem to touch them, and now they are trying to kill the roots by making deep holes and putting acid in, I believe. We'll have to wait to find out how they are, though the last word I heard was that they didn't hurt her quite so bad. G-Mom came up on Friday, August 10th, to stay until Sunday afternoon when Elizabeth and Bob were going to drive up after her. But on Sunday afternoon we had a heavy rainstorm, and they didn't come, so she stayed until Tuesday when we drove her home. She loves the house and grounds, and I believe it was a welcome change from babies and diapers. She does look tired, and though she went with them to the shore for 2 weeks, she had to wash diapers by hand on the board. And I thought she had aged considerably, and she has lost some of her bounce and youth. 72 is too old to do all the work she does. And to add to the trouble, on Friday night she called to say that Elizabeth had had a hemorrhage and had been taken to the hospital. The baby isn't due until October 1st, and the doctor says it is quite a small baby besides. They were afraid they'd have to take it cesarean, but got it stopped. She leaves the hospital today to go home and to bed for the time remaining until the baby is due. That means trays to carry and stairs to climb even more often, and I just wonder if G-Mom will ever be able to make it without some hired help. They could well afford it, but for some reason Elizabeth doesn't want to hire help. I wonder if it isn't because she'd have to clean up before the cleaning woman came. I ought to bring Bobby up here to keep him. He is a genuine pain. He is so badly spoiled and undisciplined. But I doubt if Elizabeth would let him come. He's 2 in April, and still in diapers. But I'd put a stop to that in a week if I had him. They did buy a new house, a neat $16,000 for a 25-year-old house, small plot of ground, and 2-car garage. I'd not pay 10 for it, but then I didn't. So I'd best keep me mouth shut. Time has slipped by me. I got wrapped up in blasting Miss Darst, and took too much of my time and yours to relate it, and wrote more than I thought I would too. And now I must stop and start supper for Lou. Won't take time to comment on the letters, but would like to say this. Jean and Glenn are going to Minnesota on a fishing trip. Sure wish they would come here instead, and hate to tell you how it feels to take a second seat or play second fiddle to a fish. First time I ever did, and it does look like they could come here instead. Have yourself a big day at the pond on the farm, and then bring the folks and come here. For the first time, I've got enough rooms to sleep everybody. We'll have to take turns in the one bathroom and wash in the kitchen sink. But the folks do that anyway, and Jean and Glenn can just pretend they are slumming, and we could sure visit. I need my hair cut and curled something awful, and there's no end to the amount of work we could find to do, and besides, I think everyone should come and see Mumbles, and then give Glenn a vote of thanks for keeping Jean from growing up to be like that. Well, happy birthday to Frank. I slipped up on ours along with all the rest. I guess I'll just ignore all of them from now on. And then, when the new year starts, I'll bust my neck to get each one remembered. I've successfully missed everyone this year. Love to all of you. And now everyone owes me a letter. I hope I can collect soon. Love. Won't be able to really answer your letters after all this prattle. Maybe next time. Just talked to G-Mom on the telephone, and she said Dit was coming home, and that she had had a dream that you walked in on us and surprised us. Not much else to write, and I must stop anyway. Have enjoyed your letters. It amuses me that you sound almost surprised to find that being married is fun, and a boon to happiness. You almost glow, And if I'm not mistaken, the glow won't fade with time either, as so many people seem to think or insist it will. Time will pass quickly, but each day he'll mean more and more to you in a more special way than before, until he'll been almost a part of you, an essential part that keeps you living instead of existing. Your letters seem to have changed a lot. I often find myself wondering if you'd look any different, and yet I know that is silly, for the changes are within you, and are gradual, and you don't really know you're changing until you've changed, and are surprised to discover it yourself. I get a great kick out of it, for I can look back now and see myself in you. And it seems strange in a way, and yet I can relive the magic of it in a way. Love, in a way, sweetie.
I just love this.
I love so. Do I recall that at the very beginning of this letter? It was so very long ago. At the very beginning, um,
Yeah.
she said, "This is my first round robin letter." Yes,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and so she clearly this was Jean's copy, and she did a little note to Jean at the end.
Mm-hmm. She does this more and more often in the 50s. So she's going to write a big circular on carbons. That way she can split off the copies. And then on individual copies, after she's split them, she can add notes to the individuals. So I would assume there's a specific note to Chester and Laura and the other recipients. This is Jean's copy, so we get the little tag on. That's also why she didn't sign it in the middle and she signs at the bottom instead. But how great is it that she is like, hey, Glenn, thank you for marrying Jean, because we don't need another Miss Darst. And for those that missed the first episode, the name Mumbles has appeared, I think, a couple times in this episode. That is her nickname for Miss Darst. She's like, I don't want you to wind up like this one. So thank you for marrying my sister, Glenn. Thank goodness. And she reflects.
I think that she's so funny. She's so funny. And she's definitely trying to use a little bit of humor. Miss Darst is a humorless soul.
Yep.
She's humorless and she's miserable. And so I think that Sweetie's saving grace is that she can find some humor in the situation. She has Lou. It was very hard for her when he was gone, doing his 2 weeks in the Navy. And she has she's able to write. And I think this is why she's so very insistent that they come out, because she wants a little bit of relief from Miss Darst. Also, I think she does have, hey, I want you guys to get a good look at her because this is who I'm going to be writing about. Clearly, every time she starts writing about it, it's just like a journal. She's just vomiting all of this horrible situation that she's, dealing with. That she is well aware she put herself in. She put herself in.
She accepts that, the responsibility.
She's upset. But yeah, so that was a heck of a letter. Oh, and let's talk about too, because Lewis is going to school.
Finally, yeah. Or at this point.
So she's, and they don't have any other kids. This is it. She's like, okay, well now he's gonna be at school, and then she's gonna be alone with Miss Darst all day.
I love when we get to the start of him going to school. And for people listening in Doylestown, he's going to be going to the Doylestown school. And this is basically just up the hill from where they live. So it's going to be nice and convenient. He can walk to school and he can walk home from school. And we're going to get to see the school day kind of in a different light from what it is today. So we're going to get to see what public school, we're going to learn about the teachers, ones that are great, ones that are not so great. This is also the school for people around Doylestown. That school famously burned down. This is the school that burned down that he's attending. So there's like a memorial arch, I think, that had been left, which is like the remaining portion of the school that still stands in town. This is that school. So if everyone has ever been curious about the history of that building, we're going to talk a good deal about that building. That's what he's going to be attending in his first year there. And, Lewis is a very curious kid. He's had all these experiences with Chester. He's probably learned things he shouldn't have at this point.
Definitely.
Maybe he says agricoli to his teachers. Who knows? But we're going to hear the story of Lewis going to school very, very soon in the podcast. So.
So that was basically the end of the letter. She was like, Lou's going to school. I would love it if you guys could come. And then she just, goes on about Jean and how she's like, and it is fun. It's,
Yeah.
you get to see that, and she gets to, she's like, I get to relive it. She gets to like see on the other side, and she knows what she's going through, what Jean's going through, and
Mhm.
well, not, I don't want to say going through, but she knows what Jean's experiencing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say. And she's like remembering it and reliving it. And I love how she puts that, and love in a way.
In a way. Yeah.
She has like a very clever way of doing things, and
Mhm.
when she gets in those flow states, it just comes out, her personality comes out. She's got
Yeah.
such a great sense of humor, and that's why I know she's gonna, and I know she's gonna be fine with Miss Darst,
Mhm.
but it is gonna be a trial by fire.
Yeah, we were talking about the hero's journey at the end of season 2, and this part's called the Road of Trials. Here's trial number 1, and it's a big one. But yeah, we're gonna hear for a long time about Miss Darst and all of the fun things, the interesting things that Miss Darst is up to annoy Sweetie and to get under her skin. And we're gonna see how Sweetie, handles all of that pressure. The one thing we should keep in mind is she's just moved to Doylestown. This is a big town. Her friend is Mr. Murphy. He's in Atlanta. So we're going to hope that Sweetie starts to make some good acquaintances and relationships with the people in town, but we haven't really met them yet. We are going to be meeting in the future episodes some of the people around town, and we'll talk more about Doylestown at that time period in some future content. But that's it for this episode. Thank you, everybody, to listening. We hope you tune in next week. I look forward to next week as we get a little more of like, I love it when Sweetie explains how economical she's being and how they're making it through these times. Next week's episode 95, I buy cracked eggs, is really, really fun. And we're gonna get to hear from a certain someone who everybody likes to hear from.
All right, I'm excited for next week. We'll see y'all then.
Bye.